while she was inside with her 3 small children. Medgar was a courageous pillar in the battle for equal rights and a tireless fighter for the right to vote. His death was one of the pivotal events that motivated hundreds of thousands to march at this very place 50 years ago. Not even 24 hours after his passing, Wiley Evers turned a tragedy into a movement for action and added feet to her belief to ensure that her husband's life was not lived in vain. She is the former chairwoman of the NAACP and the first layperson and first woman to deliver the invocation at a presidential inauguration. She has been a trailblazer in the pursuit for justice and equality, a fearless, courageous woman whose devotion to her family and the struggle for freedom inspired us to stand firm in our beliefs with dignity, beauty, and grace, to encourage young women of color that we too can have a place at this table as the next generation's leaders for this movement to progress this nation. She was one of the 2 women confirmed to speak at the March on Washington here 50 years ago, but because of travel mishaps, she didn't make it to speak. Today, she joins us on the same steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Please welcome Miss Wiley Evers Williams.
Praise, thank you ever so much. What an honor it is to be here today, joining all of my brothers and sisters as we reevaluate what we have done in these last 50 years. Unfortunately for me, I was unable to make the first March on Washington, and I never really got over that until President Obama said, "Please lead us in the invocation," and that was in January of this year. Thank you, Reverend Sharpton and others, for asking me to lend a few words to this most precious gathering. And as I look out at the crowd, I find myself saying, what are we?
Stand by.
Standing your ground in the negative. But I ask you today to flip that coin and make stand your ground a positive ring for all of us who believe in freedom and justice and equality, that we stand firm on the ground that we have already made and be sure that nothing is taken away from us, because there are efforts to turn back the clock of freedom. And I ask you today, will you allow that to happen? Take the words, stand your ground, in a positive sense. Stand your ground in terms of fighting for justice and equality. We've had wonderful speakers here, and we'll have even more who will outline those things to you, but I think you know what I mean. Take a negative and make a positive out of it. Assess where we are today. Assess where we have come from. Assess where we can go. Standing our ground for justice, for freedom, for equality. And I stand here today and I ask the question, ain't I a woman? Where are the women that need to be acknowledged in this movement for freedom and justice? We must not forget them. We must not forget Coretta Scott King. We must not forget Betty Shabazz. We must not forget all of the other women who poured in the sweat and the tears to move us further. So if you do nothing else, if you take nothing else from my heart and what I have said, stand your ground for freedom and justice and do whatever is necessary that's legal to move this country forward, because we are on standstill today. Standstill that looks toward the back, and we must not have that. And I think of us as trees in a forest of people, trees with a network of roots that reach far and that reach deep. The strength of a tree comes from its roots. We have young people here today who were not born, who were not even thought of being born, but who have embraced the movement of justice and equality for all. Stand by them, guide them. For those of my generation, I say to you, sometimes it's necessary to step aside just a little bit, reach out a hand and bring up these young leaders that we have. For we need them in America today. This is our country, and we are the trees standing tall for justice. And we realize that the deeper we place our roots in this society, the less afraid we are to say to those who represent us, you do represent us, and we will hold you accountable for all of the things, because we are the trees and we have the roots through the strength and the power to turn things around. Never become so depressed that we think we can't make it. 50 years ago, Dr. King and so many others helped to show us the way and give us the strength to move forward. I stand here today thankful to be 80 years of age and see all of those changes that have taken place and realize that there were people like Dr. King and so many others, and yes, Medgar Evers, who gave a life and lives for justice and equality. Let us not forget that history. Let us move forward. I'm going to move off the stage because I hear the music being played. But I thank you for your time. I thank you for attention. And I am thankful to be here with you today.
Our next speaker is Congressman John Lewis. Now, band, there will be no wrap-up music for John Lewis. 50 years ago, John Lewis stood right here and did his speech, which he rewrote and rewrote, I think 2 or 3 times, because they said his speech was too much fire for the March on Washington. But here to do that speech, well, you gonna do that speech? Do it. He risked his life. He is a member of Congress from Georgia, please welcome Congressman John Lewis. Go get him.
50 years ago, I stood right here in this spot, 23 years old, had all of my hair and a few pounds lighter. So I come back here again to say that those days, for the most part, are gone. But we have another fight. We must stand up and fight the good fight as we march today. For there are forces, there are people who want to take us back. We cannot go back. We come too far. We want to go forward. Back in 1963, hundreds and thousands and millions of our brothers and sisters could not register to vote. When I stood here 50 years ago, I said, one man, one vote is the African cry. It is ours too. It must be ours. I also said, some people tell us to wait, tell us to be patient. I said 50 years later, we cannot wait. We cannot be patient. We want jobs and we want our freedom now. All of us. It doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino, Asian American, or Native American. It doesn't matter whether we're straight or gay. We're one people, we're one family, we're one house. We all live in the same house. So I said to you, my brothers and sisters, we cannot give up. We cannot give out. We cannot give in. We must get out there and push and pull. Now a few short years ago, almost 48 years ago, 48 years ago, almost 50 years ago, I gave a little blood on that bridge in Selma, Alabama for the right to vote. I am not going to stand by and let the Supreme Court take the right to vote away from us. You cannot stand by. You cannot sit down. You got to stand up, speak out, and get in the way. Make some noise. The vote is precious. It is almost sacred. It is the most powerful, non-violent tool we have in a democratic society, and we got to use it. Back in 1963, we hadn't heard of the internet. We didn't have a cellular telephone, my iPad, iPod. But we used what we had to bring about a nonviolent revolution. And I said to all of the young people, you must get out there and push and pull and make America what America should be for all of us. We must say to the Congress, fix the Voting Rights Act. We must say to the Congress, pass comprehensive immigration reform. It doesn't make sense that millions of our people are living in the shadow. Bring them out into the light and set them on a path to citizenship. So hang in there. Keep the faith. I got arrested 40 times during the 60s. Beaten, left bloody and unconscious. But I'm not tired. I'm not weary. I'm not prepared to sit down and give up. I am ready to fight and continue to fight. And you must fight. Thank you very much.
And next up, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce you to the President of the American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, and the President of the 1.6 million member strong Ask Me, Lee Saunders.